Li Diwang slammed into the wall behind him. This blow left Li Diwang severely injured. Not stopping there, Bloodrain continued to attack Li Diwang. He laughed and said, "I will end your life with a spectacular blow." Then, Bloodrain used one hand to grip Li Diwang's face tightly. He used blood to strike down Li Diwang, laughing in a sinister manner. Seeing that Li Diwang was about to be in serious trouble, Qin Wuchan immediately rushed to the rescue from behind. Qin Wuchan used firepower to attack Bloodrain with a powerful strike. Upon seeing Qin Wuchan's abilities, Bloodrain laughed and said, "Good skills, but you are useless. You cannot defeat me with just that." Suddenly, Bloodrain was behind Qin Wuchan, leaving him astonished as he thought, "Since when?" Before he could regain his composure, Bloodrain immediately attacked. He used his hand to swipe with sharp claws towards Qin Wuchan, leaving a bleeding wound on his chest. Qin Wuchan glanced back in anger and thought, "Damn." Not stopping there, Bloodrain crazily continued to attack Qin Wuchan. Realizing he was about to become prey, Qin Wuchan kicked hard at his opponent's face and then seized the opportunity to retreat. Qin Wuchan shouted loudly, "Get lost." As Qin Wuchan had exhausted all of his strength, he painfully collapsed to the ground. Qin Wuchan gasped for breath and looked towards Bloodrain, the drops of blood from his wounds continuously dripping down. Meanwhile, Bloodrain appeared delighted, raising his bloody hand to lick and savor it. He laughed wickedly and said, "A bit hasty. If that blow had hit, perhaps even my bones would have been split in two." Upon hearing these words, Qin Wuchan silently cursed, "This bastard is too strong. If I can't use fire magic, there's no way I can escape from him." Bloodrain approached Qin Wuchan and said, "Ha ha ha, you seem angry and helpless because you're worried about the hostage. You can't use your full strength, right, Kim Mei-moon?" When he heard his sister's name, Qin Wuchan immediately jolted and stared intently at him. Bloodrain continued, "You have a sister who is a model. I've done a little research on her. That brave and lovely little girl really managed to fool me. She made me believe that the bastard chasing her is her brother, and that he will be punished for daring to deceive me." As soon as he finished speaking, Qin Wuchan angrily warned, "If you dare to lay a hand on my sister, I will kill you." Seeing Qin Wuchan's attitude change, Bloodrain secretly chuckled to himself, "The kid has fallen into my trap. I will get to taste the blood of an extremely angry psyker. That will be a special flavor." Bloodrain continued to taunt, "You are overflowing with confidence, and I will give you an opportunity to prove it." The scene immediately changed, and now at a construction site, Bloodrain said, "Here I can feel at ease. You can unleash your full power, right? You must be thrilled to use all your strength." At this moment, he thought to himself, "If there is no one around under this night sky, I can indulge in the blood of this psyker as I please." Qin Wuchan was pushed to the limit of his provocation. In anger, he shouted, "I will make you regret bringing me here." After saying this, Qin Wuchan immediately used flames to attack and confront the demon Bloodrain. Bloodrain showed no signs of fear. Instead, he laughed wickedly, jumping high and performing an acrobatic flip. Qin Wuchan was about to move closer to him. Bloodrain was not outdone. He countered with a palm strike against Qin Wuchan. Bloodrain placed his long arm on Qin Wuchan's shoulder and confidently exclaimed, "Is this all your strength? It's no different from when you couldn't use your full power." At this moment, Qin Wuchan was under his control. After that, Bloodrain forcefully threw Qin Wuchan to the ground and said with a laugh, "You know, I haven't even used all my strength yet." Bloodrain proudly approached Qin Wuchan. These images were displayed on the system screen, and Quan Kang-woo observed everything. He exclaimed in astonishment, "That's truly sick." Suddenly, a noise caught Quan Kang-woo's attention. There were scratch marks left behind by claws. Moro said, "It has signs of very strong magic." Seeing that peculiar mark, Quan Kang-woo exclaimed in shock, "Impossible! That bastard?" It was the image of Li Diwang lying unconscious somewhere. It seemed Li Diwang had been seriously injured. Quan Kang-woo approached, staring intently at Li Diwang and said, "This bastard, is he dead?" Just after he spoke, Moro's replied, "He is still alive." Quan Kang-woo continued, "Qin Wuchan has definitely been here, but where is he?" Suddenly, Moro shouted, "Quan Kang-woo, look!" Quan Kang-woo turned to look at the sword and replied, "What is it?" Moro's continued, "It's a magical weapon." Quan Kang-woo gently picked up Li Diwang's sword. He examined it closely and said, "I can feel it when I hold it." Moro said, "This is a good opportunity. Extract the magic crystal from that weapon." Quan Kang-woo quickly replied, "You are right. This is a good opportunity. But since it's someone else's weapon..." At this point, Quan Kang-woo recalled the battle between Li Diwang and himself earlier. He pondered for a moment and then said, "It should be fine. After saying that, he tossed the sword down and left. Over here, Quan Kang Wu was holding something that was glowing. Then, without hesitation, he drank it directly. In an instant, Quan Kang Wu felt a change in his body. He appeared astonished, looking forward. In front of him, Quan Kang Wu's chest was gradually glowing. The color of Quan Kang Wu's eyes had changed. Even Moros noticed something unusual. A huge amount of energy is radiating around Quan Kang Wu. Quan Kang Wu says, "I think you don't need to use the divine ring to see anymore. I'm already familiar with this feeling." On the other side, at the construction site where Kim Woo-chan and Bloodrain are together in a high-rise building, the two of them are still there. Bloodrain, holding two women with both hands, laughs and says, "When will that bastard arrive? He will show up soon. I'm fed up with this appetizer." At this moment, Kim Woo-chan is frantically attacking Bloodrain. His eyes are filled with resentment. Bloodrain, calm, is warming up his hands and feet, then arrogantly charges toward Kim Woo-chan. He looks into Kim Woo-chan's face and mocks. "This little flame cannot hurt me." At this moment, Bloodrain is readying an attack. He strikes a palm into Kim Woo-chan's stomach. The sudden attack catches Kim Woo-chan off guard, and he kneels on the ground in pain. Bloodrain, with a proud expression, says, "You are truly weak, truly pathetic. How unfortunate. But there is no need to blame yourself for that weakness, because I will turn you into a part of my body. That way, you can live forever." Suddenly, a voice rose up, "The insane, perverted guy." At that moment, Quan Kang Wu was present. Bloodrain was astounded and turned to look. Quan Kang Wu coldly said, "Stop saying such nonsense. You're just a perverted mosquito." Bloodrain and Quan Kang Wu faced each other. Bloodrain mockingly said, "Still the same old pathetic leech, huh? You always interrupt my enjoyment." Quan Kang Wu calmly replied, "For someone who has been defeated time and again, you certainly enjoy talking." Bloodrain laughed deviously. "My body has reached a new level. I have absorbed dozens of people, and their blood has awakened me. This glorious power is invincible. Even an S-rank psyker can't touch me right now." Quan Kang Wu calmly asked, "Oh, really?" At that moment, Kim Woo-chan, trembling, tried to stand up. His gaze collided with Quan Kang Wu's. Kim Woo-chan anxiously muttered, "He's." Suddenly, Bloodrain laughed loudly and said, "Behold my invincible power." Seeing Bloodrain's momentum, Kim Woo-chan was astonished and internally exclaimed, "Oh my god, this bastard didn't use his full strength when fighting me." Bloodrain only smiled eerily. Then he directed his attack towards Quan Kang Wu. Bloodrain uses his blood technique to attack. He feels that he is about to be destroyed. Quan Kang Wu hurriedly raises both hands to create a protective barrier. A strange hand reaches out towards Quan Kang Wu, tightly grasping his arm. Bloodrain secretly rejoices at having caught him. Seizing the opportunity, Bloodrain strikes Quan Kang Wu's face with his clawed hand. Suddenly, Bloodrain's eyes show a hint of astonishment. Quan Kang Wu mocks him. "Foolish, I'm behind you. You're just a joke." Bloodrain, furious, immediately turns to look. He wildly attacks without direction. Quan Kang Wu calmly waits for the right moment and delivers a fatal blow to him, catching Bloodrain off guard. Not stopping there, Quan Kang Wu kicks Bloodrain hard in the face, sending him flying away as if he is about to vanish. Bloodrain painfully collapses to the ground. Quan Kang Wu coldly says, "Show me your invincible ability." "Come on, what are you going to show me?" After saying that, Quan Kang Wu immediately strikes Bloodrain's face with a devastating blow, causing Bloodrain to roll several times on the ground. Bloodrain lies gasping next to Kim Woo-chan. With this power, Kim Woo-chan is astonished. He silently exclaims, "What is this? He is completely different from when we were at the hospital. Is he also hiding his true strength? What happened since then?" At that moment, Bloodrain, with trembling hands, struggled to sit up. Quan Kang Wu boldly approached him and said, "Damn, you claim that a classed S-psyker can't defeat you, but is that all you've got?" Hearing these words, Bloodrain smirked disdainfully. Quan Kang Wu coldly asked, "Are you going to run away again?" Bloodrain replied, "I don't know what has happened during this time, but I admit you are stronger than me. But you will never catch me with that physical attack, especially when my body transforms into blood next time. There won't be a next time, you sick mosquito." Then Bloodrain used an illusion to escape, but Quan Kang Wu had anticipated his intentions. He said, "You and your perverse interests won't be able to be reborn." At that moment, Quan Kang Wu had a source of ominous energy in his hands. He looked cunningly and said, "I will burn you with everything I have." The gaze of Bloodrain reflected a bright red light. Quan Kang Wu was now using dark fire, striking him fiercely with a powerful blow. In the city hospital. In a normal room, the TV was tuned to the breaking news channel. On the screen, the host brought up images and began to report the news from last night. In the residential area of Gatham District, Bloodrain, the perpetrator of the massacres, has been captured after a fierce battle. Bloodrain, the serial killer, is no ordinary criminal, but psyker Kim Woo-chan, one of the rising rookies, defeated him. At that moment, a hand clapped firmly on Kim Woo-chan's shoulder in praise. "Well done, kid, you did great," Lee Di-wong exclaimed. "I can't imagine what would have happened if we hadn't caught him." Kim Woo-chan quietly replied, "I didn't catch him." Lee Di-wong felt confused, looking at Kim Woo-chan with a dim gaze. He tightly clenched the can in his hand and slowly recounted. "I only contacted headquarters after the battle was over. He reminisced about last night when Bloodrain was defeated by Kwon Kang-woo, who currently had him by the neck. Kim Woo-chan was stunned. The burning ability was evident. He had shadow powers with dual attributes that he had never heard of before. Still in shock, Kwon Kang-woo suddenly called out, "Hey you," he said to quickly call the police or report something. The murderer Bloodrain has been caught. Returning to the present, Kim Woo-chan sincerely expressed, "I made it clear to them that I am not the one who caught him, but they reported to the authorities that I am the one who did." Lee Di-wong, after hearing the story, was astonished and asked again, "Could it be that person, the one who fought against Baladra last time?" Kim Woo-chan nodded. "That's right. He is the one who took down Bloodrain." At that moment, the atmosphere in the room suddenly became silent. After a while, Lee Di-wong leaned on his hands, resting his chin, and asked, "Do you feel guilty for not being the one who did that?" Kim Woo-chan remained silent. Lee Di-wong then flopped down on the hospital bed, sighed, and said, "All right, don't worry about that anymore. What good does worrying do? He might have other intentions like fighting to elevate his rank." At this point, he seemed to remember something and suddenly sat up, asking, "Oh right, what happened to my sword?" Kim Woo-chan replied, "They reported that it is fine and is at the police station." Lee Di-wong secretly breathed a sigh of relief. "That's a relief, my precious sword." Kim Woo-chan did not continue the conversation. He looked out the hospital window with eyes full of contemplation. The scene shifts to the university, a hidden corner that no one usually pays attention to. The young men who used to bully Kang-woo are gathering. No Sechan is scrolling through his phone when he suddenly comes across a news feed about Bloodrain and Kim Woo-chan. He exclaims, "Holy shit, have you seen this? Kim Woo-chan has defeated a villain. It's insane. Good thing we didn't go to the nightclub yesterday otherwise. A guy with black hair wearing glasses looks over and sneers. With your face, who do you think you can protect? Illusion of power, what's wrong with you?" The two then turn to argue with each other. Purple hair, scar-faced, suddenly notices something and asks the guy with the orange hair, "Where's Dong Sum? Why are you sitting here alone?" That guy replies with a lackluster smile. After he got hit in the face, he had to be hospitalized because he fractured his eye socket. Purple hair immediately snaps, "At least you should cover his hospital fees. He almost died." Wine Daegu flicks the cigarette in his hand and coldly states, "He was beaten up because you provoked him." Purple hair frowns and asks, "Are you really going to let that guy go? We need to maintain our reputation." Wine Daegu refuses, "Not with me included." He then blows up at the end, grumbling, "But if you don't participate," Daegu suddenly counters, "Do you still really think he's a low-tier loser? To be honest, I'm more afraid of that bastard than of that psyker Kim Woo-chan. How can a person have eyes like that?" Purple hair suddenly fell silent, his face turning pale. In class 3-1, the students chattered excitedly about the news. "Have you seen the news? Kim Woo-chan is amazing. It gave me goosebumps." Moro said, "Everyone is obsessed with the events from last night." Meanwhile, Kwon Kang-woo quietly sat in a corner fiddling with his phone. He then turned the phone face down, recalling a few villains, and decided, "I should take some time to meet those people. I want to receive something different from the reward they mentioned." Moros asked, "Do you have other requests?" Kwon Kang-woo did not respond. Somewhere in an old building, there were clicks heard as someone continuously pressed the button on paper launcher. A girl with pink hair, cold eyes, blowing a bubble with her chewing gum, was spraying purple paint on the wall. Before long, an image resembling a dog was painted. Additionally, countless black and red papers shaped like glasses were stuck all over it. She stood silently completing her work. Behind her, someone was carrying a bucket and a rag. That person looked up at the messy wall but said nothing. The girl, meanwhile, remained very pleased with what she was doing. On the other hand, nearby, an old-looking house, Driver was diligently assembling components, appearing to be focused. Suddenly, the door swung open, drawing his attention. 3 people entered. A man in a mask with long hair spoke up, asking, "Is this how you welcome esteemed guests? It's quite a mess. You should tidy up properly." Along with him were 2 others, one with green hair who seemed calm, and another with blonde hair who was pinching his nose, complaining about the musty smell. Screwdriver set aside his work, turned to face the three individuals, and said, "You're already complaining right at the door. What are you doing here?" The man replied, "Isn't it because you called me?" Driver burst into laughter. "Ha, I called you?" After a moment, 3 glasses of ice water were brought in to serve the guests. Driver poured the water while asking, "Did you see that guy fight?" The man recalled the previous incident and answered, "Of course, I saw everything. He's a great villain, Royal Garnet." He smirked as he recounted, "I watched intently as if I were watching a movie." Driver asked again, "Oh, so what do you think?" Garnet commented, "No conspiracy." Hog, holding a piece of cake, said, "A dull, cliche movie." Aroma looked at her and said, "You're so hard to please." Garnet wiped the cake crumbs off Hote's face and continued, "I think it's quite good. The main actor is very unique, like a brilliant yet mysterious black diamond." Driver chuckled, "Isn't that a bit of excessive praise from you?" Garnet, intrigued, placed her hand that just touched Hote's cheek on her own lips and replied, "I can't say anything else. From the very beginning, you knew, right? That guy has a dual attribute." Driver looked surprised for a moment, then turned away, pretending to ponder while stroking his chin. The 3 of them waited attentively for his response. Driver finally spoke, "Now I know." Garnet couldn't help but be surprised. "What is it? Don't you know?" Driver said honestly, "I just thought he was different from a few other villains." Garnet smiled faintly. "You don't know a villain with a dual attribute? I've never heard of that." Driver said, "Actually, there is." The 3 of them immediately focused their attention on him as he continued, "A long time ago, they existed in the age of mythology." In the late afternoon, Quan Kang-woo walked towards the old building, reminiscing as he went. The evil area existed not to imprison the wicked, but to prevent the conflict between the wicked and the psychers, allowing the wicked to operate freely. The place where people lived in peace was the evil area. Quan Kang-woo, hands on his hips, stood looking at the scene before him and said, "I can never get used to this place, no matter how many times I come here." Moros remained silent and did not express any opinion. Suddenly, a voice rang out, "You've come at just the right time." Quan Kang-woo looked up. Driver was sitting and looking at him, saying, "Your aura seems quite different from the last time we met. It's good to see you again." The last rays of sunlight were about to fade. The lights of the sign turned on. It was the Heaven Bar. Quan Kang-woo and Driver sat at the bar counter, being served by the bartender. The bartender placed a glass of light red liquid in front of the 2. Driver pulled the glass closer to Quan Kang-woo and introduced, "The grapefruit juice here is really good. After you finish drinking, I'll take you on a tour of this wicked area." After saying that, he placed a small box on the table. "This is for you. The reward is promised." Driver adjusted his glasses and a series of analytical data appeared. The driver couldn't help but wonder, "Your magic has really increased significantly. Did you use magic stones or what?" Quan Kang-woo wiped the grapefruit juice off the glass and replied, "Where would I get magic stones from?" Upon receiving this answer, the driver still felt a bit skeptical. He used the analyzer again. Where on earth did this person come from? The last time I met him, he only had 300 magic points, but now he has over 500. His magic cannot have increased that much just from the magic stones I've given him. Does this have anything to do with his dual attributes? Quan Kang-woo opened the box he had given. Inside were 2 yellow stones. He wondered, "I'm really curious. Where did you get the magic stones? Did someone supply them to you?" Suddenly, a strange voice interrupted, "He got the magic stones for me." Quan Kang-woo looked up. The previous bartender had been replaced by someone else. He was also looking at him, wearing a friendly smile. Then he opened his hand, and a condensed stream of energy formed a black chess piece, which looked quite similar to Quan Kang-woo. The man placed the chess piece on a plate of sandwiches and pushed it toward Quan Kang-woo. "This is a free meal for a very special customer." Quan Kang-woo stared at the chess piece, but still didn't say anything. The driver introduced, "This is the owner of this bar, my brother Yu Cha-ha. He is an outsider living in the evil area." Yu Cha-ha immediately reminded him, "I told you not to call me brother." The driver continued, "Come on, sell me some cheap magic stones." He put down the wine bottle and smiled, saying, "I'm giving them to you at the lowest price already. Customers are so stingy." The driver didn't give up and continued to persuade him. "Come on, we must be beyond the mere friendship level, right? How many years have we known each other?" Yu Cha-ha maintained a firm smile. Business is business. Quan Kang-woo sat aside, watching the 2 talk, and thought to himself, "An outsider living in the evil area must have his own story." He then spoke up, "I have a few questions. Can I also buy magic stones?" Yu Cha-ha replied, "Of course, if you are a member of this evil area." Quan Kang-woo frowned. "A member of the evil area?" The driver explained, "You just need to reside in the evil area neighborhood." Quan Kang-woo questioned, "You want me to live there and serve you like a boss?" The driver laughed and said, "That depends on you. You'll have to take a test to see if you can become a boss. It all depends on the test." Yucha asked, "Don't you want to be the boss of the evil area anymore?" Driver replied, "I've been thinking about it for a long time." Quan Kang-woo candidly expressed, "I'm not interested in being the boss of this area." Driver was surprised. Why not? Being the boss of the evil area is pretty cool. He casually said, "If you like it that much, just keep it." Driver tried to persuade him. "You would have full control over the evil area if you become the boss. You even have subordinates and your own fancy training room." Quan Kang-woo answered, "Besides figuring out how to get stronger, I'm not interested in anything else." Then Yu Cha-ha suddenly shared a piece of information. You could also buy magic stones from the black market. Immediately, Quan Kang-woo reacted. He looked up at the bar owner. A thought suddenly flashed through his mind. "I'm not too sure. There's a good chance he's also a black market dealer. This guy, too. They don't look like easy opponents at all." Driver reminded him, "Think again. You would also receive a monthly maintenance fee. That amount could be quite significant." Quan Kang-woo furrowed his brows and asked, "So how much do you actually get?" Driver leaned in and whispered in his ear as if sharing some special news. Quan Kang-woo widened his eyes in astonishment. Driver over there smiled smugly with his chin resting on his hand. Quan Kang-woo pondered while looking at him. On the other side, Yu Cha-ha also smirked with a knowing smile. In some place in the evil area, Black Hand bit into a piece of bread and irritably said, "This tastes disgusting. This stuff is hard to chew. Is this even real meat?" Finally, he couldn't take it anymore, threw the bread down to the ground and cursed. "How much longer do I have to eat this? I want to go out and have Papa's chicken burger." Crush, standing next to him and drinking a can of soda, said, "Burger is pretty good. I really like pizza, but I can't remember the last time I had it." Then Black Hand snapped and yelled, "You destroyed the only pizza shop in the evil area." Crush explained, "Pineapple pizza is not acceptable, you idiot." While the two were arguing, another person showed up and asked, "Is everyone here?" Both of them stopped their debate and turned to look. It was the B-grade villain, Double Blade, who approached to remind them, "Now is not the time to talk about pizza." Black Hand asked, "What's going on? Is there a crazy psyker invading the evil area or something?" Blade announced the news. "That person has arrived." "Who?" Another asked. "The one in black who dealt you a blow last time." At this moment, Black Hand couldn't help but feel shocked. He recalled past events and gritted his teeth in anger. He yelled, "Where is that bastard now?" Double Blade replied, "He's with Driver. They're at Heaven Pub. Are you going to go after them?" Black Hand confirmed, "Absolutely." Driver said, "We've restricted villains from fighting in the evil area, but starting today, I'm going to break that rule." He was filled with enthusiasm and sparks of electronic energy even flickered around him. That afternoon, after leaving the pub, Driver took Quan Kang-woo for a stroll around the evil area. At a spot where someone was eagerly digging, he pointed at that person and said, "His name is Dirt Dog or Digging Dog because he loves to dig." At that moment, another person approached, complaining, "I'll clean up everything. You need to make sure you don't get dirt on you while digging." Driver inadvertently introduced him as well. "That guy over there is Cleaner. He's a cleaning fanatic. Just seeing a speck of dust makes it impossible for him to sit still. Both of them are crazy, but they don't harm anyone. Although they don't cause harm to people, they can still cause material damage. That's why we need a place like the evil area." Quan Kang-woo thought to himself, they were different from the villains he had faced before. Perhaps due to this person's thinking process, he suddenly asked, "Why do you want me to catch Blood Rain?" Driver explained, "Because I need a traitor." These words from him left Quan Kang-woo feeling puzzled. Driver continued, "To eliminate the traitor, I need someone who is unrelated to me and the evil area like you. You may not know it, but just like psychers, villains come in many types. Those who follow the rules and those who disregard the rules and do as they please." Quan Kang-woo understood this to some extent and expressed his opinion. "So your point is that there is some connection between Blood Rain, the evil area, and the traitor?" Driver replied, "Blood Rain is just a pawn of the traitor, nothing more. I am certain there is something more sinister behind all this because their ultimate goal is to destroy the evil area." Quan Kang-woo said nonchalantly, "Those things have nothing to do with me." Driver couldn't help but laugh. "I knew you would say that. That's why I like you. You should become a member of the evil area." Quan Kang-woo, with an unflinching expression, asked, "What nonsense are you talking about?" The driver chuckled softly and replied, "I swear on the honor of a villain, this is a very sincere request." The scene shifted to downtown, the Vespera Hotel, inside which was a place full of extravagance. Everything was beautifully and neatly arranged. At this moment, Quan Yuri was counting the number of bottles of wine on the shelf while she worriedly thought, "I wonder if Kang-woo has eaten yet." Ever since I gave that card to the kid, I hardly ever see him anymore. Suddenly, a waiter approached and called out, "Manager Kwon Yuri." She responded, "I'm here." The other person said, "The boss is looking for you." Kwon Yuri was surprised and wondered, "Looking for me?" In a special room, the boss seemed to be talking to someone. The boss said, "Of course, she works hard and is friendly without a single error." On the other end of the line, a man with shoulder-length blonde hair said, "I've heard about this employee as well. I'm really looking forward to it." The boss expressed, "Personally, I would truly regret it if she were to leave." The man laughed, joking around as if I just did something wicked. At that moment, there was a knock at the door. "It's Kwon Yuri." The boss immediately hung up and said, "Manager Kwon has arrived. I will call back later." On the other end, the man put down the phone, stared at it, and smiled mysteriously. In the director's office, the boss handed Kwon Yuri a letter of introduction and said, "Here, take this. The headquarters of the U.S. have just sent you an invitation. Manager Kwon, they recognize your hard work and abilities, so they want to invite you to train further at the headquarters." Kwon Yuri could not help but be astonished and asked, "What? Really?" The boss added, "They will cover your flight expenses and provide you with an apartment close to the headquarters building. It's a great opportunity. Will you go?" Kwon Yuri happily replied, "Of course." But soon after, she became somber when she thought of her younger brother. That evening, Kwon Kang-woo wandered alone in the evil area, reaching a desolate place. He froze, recalling Driver's words, "You should become a member of the evil area." At that time, he frowned and questioned, "What nonsense are you talking about?" Driver said seriously, "I swear by the honor of a villain. This is a very sincere request." Until now, Kwon Kang-woo was still deep in thought. Moro saw this and asked, "What's wrong with you?" Suddenly, he sensed someone approaching. When he looked up, Black Hand was leaning against the wall in front of him. Next to him was Crush. He asked, "Is he alone?" Kwon Kang-woo stood still, assessing the situation. He spoke up and asked, "Is there still a mouse hiding?" Doughblade was hiding behind a nearby wall, unable to hide his surprise. "Does he already know I'm here? This guy must not be ordinary." Crush gritted his teeth and said, "I'm losing my mind. I want to turn him into a bloody mess right now." Black Hand elbowed him in the chest to remind him, "There has to be a sequence. He is mine first." He gritted his teeth, energy crackling around him challengingly. "I will repay all the humiliation you brought since that day." Kwon Kang-woo thought in confusion. Is this guy out of his mind? Didn't he instigate things last time? Moro was warned, "Be careful. It seems they will attack as a group." Black Hand glared, quickly moving towards Kwon Kang-woo. "Die." At that moment, a wooden crate suddenly came flying from nowhere, perfectly blocking Black Hand's path. Angrily, he shouted, "What the hell is this?" The person who threw the crate replied, "People are leaving, and greeting like that is rude." She was the villain Ju-ak. Bloodrain stopped in his tracks, cursed in frustration. "You're a damn crazy drunk. Have you drunk so much that you've lost your mind?" Ju-ak laughed and responded, "I'm just trying to warn you that you're going against the rules. Attacking someone is against the rules in the evil area." Crush couldn't help but click his tongue, while Black Hand continued to argue. "That only applies if he is also a member of the evil area." Ju-ak asserted, "Soon enough, he will be a member of the evil area." At this moment, black feathers began to fall from the sky. Blade, hidden in a corner, looked up. The others also turned their gaze in the same direction. Under the full moon, a woman wearing a black hat held a black raven and smiled down. When Black Hand saw her, he stammered, "Crow, how can she?" Crow smirked coldly and asked, "Will you let him go?" Hearing these words, both Crush and Black Hand were astonished, their eyes filled with disbelief. On the other hand, Kwon Yuri had finally finished her work shift and returned to her apartment. Upon arriving home, she couldn't help but sigh wearily. After turning on the lights and noticing the silence in the house, Kwon Yuri speculated, "Is the boy already asleep?" Approaching Kwon Kang-woo's room, Kwon Yuri intended to knock on the door, but recalling her boss's words, she instinctively paused and decided against it. Finally, Kwon Yuri placed her bag on the chair, took a shower, and collapsed onto her bed. Unexpectedly, the bag, which was upright, was not stable. As soon as she entered the bathroom, it fell over, causing the letter inside to slip out and lie quietly on the floor. The next morning in the park, Kwon Kang-woo went for a run wearing a tightly secured mask with his face, arms, and legs donned in 10 kilograms weighted bags. However, his speed did not decrease at all. Wherever he ran, people looked at him with admiration. Moros followed him and asked, "Weighted bags?" "Correct, a traditional training method." Kwon Kang-woo replied, "These are the best for improving both strength and endurance. From now on, I need to focus not just on one-on-one matches, but on one against 100 as well. Therefore, endurance is essential." Moros praised good analysis, Cassian. The remaining time the previous evening, Crush grasped the main issue and exclaimed, "Wait, doesn't he need to pass the initiation test for the evil area?" Blackhand pointed and shouted, "Does he even want to show his face? Forget the test, I just want to chop him up." Suddenly, Quan Kang-woo spoke up, "I will take the test." After 10 days, Blackhand, unwilling, clenched his teeth. Fortunately, Crush patted his shoulder to reassure him. Juak stepped forward and said, "The welcoming ceremony will take place in 10 days. Here, I will explain the rules. The match will be one-on-one and killing is prohibited unless in cases of extreme necessity. Your first opponent is me. Let's have a blast." At that moment, Quan Kang-woo glanced at Juak. She smirked confidently at him. Back in the present, Quan Kang-woo was practicing while thinking. Even though he didn't care much about joining the evil area, the people around him seemed dazzled. What the hell is going on? Quan Kang-woo paid no attention to them and continued to breathe. But if he became stronger to get revenge on Lampas, then he would choose this path, even if it meant going to hell. While walking, he suddenly stopped, his gaze drifting to two girls who looked quite similar standing nearby. But after just a glance, he continued jogging forward. After he left, the two girls turned to look at each other. One remarked, "Seems promising." "Is it that person?" "Yeah, no doubt about it." Under the sunlight, her makeup faded away. It turned out to be Hope and Aroma. The two had been observing and ultimately decided to keep this secret from Garnet. When they returned to the apartment, the first thing Quan Kang-woo did was take a shower. He turned on the shower head and let the water cascade over his body. After a while, he stepped out of the bathroom, using a towel to dry his wet hair. Noticing that there was still no one in the living room, he wondered if she was still asleep. Quan Kang-woo's gaze moved down to the cluttered living room, and he couldn't help but feel speechless. He walked over to lift his sister's bag and told himself he should clean up this mess. At that moment, a letter on the floor caught his eye. Kwon Yuri, after a long sleep, woke up. She came out into the living room, yawning. "Are you up so early?" Seeing Quan Kang-woo holding her introduction letter, Kwon Yuri was startled awake. She immediately walked over, grabbed the letter from his hand, and shouted, "What are you looking at? Have you even read it?" Kwon Kang-woo replied, "It seems to be an invitation to go to America." Kwon Yuri hurriedly said, "Don't worry, I'm not going anywhere." Kwon Kang-woo went to the fridge and asked, "Why not?" Kwon Yuri was surprised. "Why not?" "How can you leave me all alone?" she said. He picked up a box of milk and said, "I'll be fine on my own. Besides, I have a few thoughts to myself. To be honest, it's actually more comfortable that way." Kwon Yuri snapped, "Do you even know how to cook for yourself? What about cleaning and doing laundry? You still have to take out the trash." Hearing her nagging like that, he felt a bit angry. He explained, "I'm not a kid anymore. Do you even know how old I am?" "Well," Kwon Yuri hesitated, 19. "You just started college." Kwon Kang-woo suddenly turned around, smiling as he spoke. "Go ahead, isn't this a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity? Don't worry about me, just do what you want." Upon hearing this, Kwon Yuri couldn't help but feel a bit stunned. In the evil area at Ruin Place, 3 people, Blackhand, Crush, and Blade, were gathered. Blade crossed his arms and asked, "Only 1 week left, will he come as promised?" Blackhand wondered, "Who is he?" Blade repeated, "The kid will fight that Juak." Blackhand sighed, "I want to take his life." Blade said, "But I've heard he beat Screwdriver." Blackhand didn't believe it. "No way, he must have gone easy." Crush even doubted, "Didn't he beat you?" Blackhand immediately got angry. "You two are arguing loudly. Do you want to die? Who got beaten by him? You want to get beaten, right?" Crush said, "Why should I be afraid? He spat all over my face." Blade, looking at the knife in his hand, suddenly asked, "But he has to defeat Juak first before it's our turn." Blackhand nodded and said, "It would be funny if he got beaten badly by Juak, but this time I'm betting on him instead of Juak. To take revenge for last time, I will use all my strength." In his room, Kwon Kang-woo sat in front of his computer. Moros asked, "Are you planning to send your sister to America?" Kwon Kang-woo said, "It's a good opportunity." Moros suspiciously asked, "Is that the only reason?" Kwon Kang-woo meditated for a moment and then suddenly said, "It will be good for both of us. I'm not saying this as Cassian, but as Kwon Kang-woo." Moros worriedly asked, "Will you be okay on your own?" Kwon Kang-woo replied, "Of course. When I was in America, I lived alone." Moros looked at the computer screen and couldn't help but exclaim. He sarcastically said, "I'm asking about what you're looking for." On the screen was a search homepage, with the search bar displaying how to cook rice. Kwon Kang-woo casually replied, "I've never cooked rice. I've always been used to making Western food." At that moment, in another room, Kwon Yuri sat silently staring at the recommendation letter. After a long pause, she couldn't help but sigh. In her mind, the words of the hotel manager and Huan Kangwu echoed. Isn't this a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity? Don't worry about me, just do what you want. She remained motionless until someone called out loudly, Huan Yuri. She was startled. By this time, it was dark outside, and she was sitting in a bar with a group of friends. The blonde girl scolded her. You called us, and then made that gloomy face. What's up with that? Another person waved and called, We're ordering okay. Two friends began to question her. Is there something on your mind? Is it about a guy? Come on, spill it. I'll. The blonde girl quickly covered her mouth and whispered, Shut it. A moment later, the waiter brought a tray of beer and placed it on the table. Here's your beer. Both of them immediately raised their glasses in comfort. Let's drink first. A little alcohol will loosen us up. Huan Yuri thought the same. She immediately grabbed her beer glass and took a gulp. As time passed, Huan Yuri became tipsy. Her face flushed, and she stumbled while walking. Huan Kangwu supported her and asked, Are you okay? You've had quite a few drinks. I'm fine. I had a lot, but I'm not drunk at all. Our Huan Kangwu is just too adorable. Huan Yuri replied while laughing. Moros commented, She seems really drunk. After taking her home, Huan Kangwu laid her down on the bed. Just as he was about to leave the room, Huan Yuri mumbled, When I was young, I always followed you everywhere, but I'm grown up enough to take care of my big sister now. Huan Kangwu silently watched her, then quietly covered her with a blanket. Once done, he stayed in her room for a while. The next morning, Huan Yuri woke up with a pounding headache from the hangover. As she came out of her room, she sighed, Oh no, my head, I drank too much. When she looked up at the table, there was a bowl of something alongside a glass of water covered with a lid. Huan Yuri picked up the yellow note and read it. It said, Sister, I made you bean sprout soup to help with your hangover. Reheat it and eat it with rice, okay? I put in some effort. A few days later, at the airport in South Korea, Huan Kangwu was seeing his sister off. Before boarding the plane, Huan Yuri constantly reminded him, Don't skip meals. You need to eat 3 full meals a day. I will check on you every morning and evening. Remember to answer your phone and lock the doors properly. You know how scary the world is right now. Huan Kangwu smiled reassuringly. I told you not to worry. Huan Yuri, still worried, said, Who wouldn't worry? If you get into any trouble, you must call me, got it? Huan Kangwu replied, That's something I should say. If you get into any trouble, I will fly straight to America. With that, the two siblings smiled at each other. Huan Yuri walked toward the gate before disappearing from sight. She waved and called out loudly, Call me when you arrive. As the plane took off, Huan Kangwu stood below watching the plane fly away. The strong wind blew through, ruffling his black hair. In the evil area, the sunset enveloped the scenery, making the already dark place even more somber. Today was the day of Huan Kangwu's assessment to join the evil area. The Juak group had gathered and was waiting. The battle rules were reiterated by the driver. You will win the match if one side surrenders or can no longer fight. You will have 3 rounds. We will recognize all participants. So even if you lose, there won't be severe penalties. You will just lose the right to challenge me, the lord of the evil area. Huan Kangwu looked at him sitting casually on the building across, unable to hold back his anger. You're too noisy. Let's get started. Driver maintained his smile. A few seconds later, he spoke up asking, All right, are you ready, Juak? She smirked coldly, energy already gathered in her hand, replying, Of course. Let's go. Moros anxiously reminded, Calm down, Cassian. Don't fall into the opponent's trap. His expression remained unchanged, responding, There's nothing to worry about. Juak stepped forward, facing Huan Kangwu. The atmosphere was thick with tension. Would it be Huan Kangwu's speed or Juak's strength and endurance? Juak was not an ordinary fighter. With good health and endurance, she was a master of close combat, her body honed for battle. She was a smart fighter who knew how to leverage her advantages. Huan Kangwu's overwhelming speed posed no threat to Juak. She was his worst opponent. Blade silently swallowed, noting, This match seems worth watching. Driver spoke up, Whoa, then let's begin. As soon as he finished speaking, Juak grabbed a large wooden barrel and rushed forward to taunt, Stop procrastinating. Suddenly, a stream of black energy surged, binding her tightly. What the hell is this? Someone shouted loudly to warn, Above your head. Juak immediately looked up, but there was only emptiness before her. She was astonished. He was not there. Blade quickly shouted, In front of you, Juak. She was instantly stunned. But it was too late. Huan Kangwu was now only a few centimeters away from her. He turned and swept his leg, delivering a powerful kick right to the side of her face. The fight seemed to be over. Driver couldn't help but swear. The other 3 villains were utterly astonished. Juak was truly motionless, losing consciousness. Huan Kangwu said coldly, Next. Juak lost just like that. Black Hand was still in a state of disbelief. He gritted his teeth in frustration. He had taken down Juak, one of the best in stamina and endurance in the evil area. Quan Kang Wu raised his hand, taunting, "Don't waste my time. Whoever is next, come up here." At this point, Black Hand had to admit he really is a monster. Quan Kang Wu repeated, "Anyone who wants to take a beating, come up." Crush glanced at Black Hand and said, "He's calling you." Suddenly, an arrow shot from somewhere and landed right at Quan Kang Wu's feet. He immediately looked up at an old building. A figure appeared saying, "You've only defeated one person. Don't be so complacent. The greatest hunter of the evil area, Ridai, I will be your opponent." At the same time, in an old abandoned house in another part of the evil area, a voice rose, saying, "Nothing will happen. There's no need to worry about Blooddrain's case. I didn't expect much from that bastard anyway." The person seemed to be on the phone, and upon hearing a question from the other end, asked, "How's the evil area in Ganem?" The other person, sitting casually in a swivel chair, stated, "The evil area in Ganem will soon collapse. Please trust me and wait for the chairman. I assure you everything will go according to his wishes." Returning to Quan Kang Wu's battle in the dark evil area, two beams of red and blue light were emitted. The red came from Rayday's arrows flying towards the blue light. No matter where Quan Kang Wu went, the arrow followed closely. The source of the blue light was Quan Kang Wu himself. Seeing the pursuer close behind, Moros exclaimed in panic, "They're using tracking arrows." Quan Kang Wu jumped towards a building. He stepped on the wall to gain momentum, then turned to dodge in another direction. The pursuing arrow couldn't change its path in time, crashing straight into the building and creating a large debris field. At that moment, Rayday's voice rang out, "Gotcha." Quan Kang Wu turned around to look back. Rayday was right in front of him, aiming his bow at him. Now it's time to end the hunt. Rayday released the bowstring, firing 3 arrows in quick succession. Quan Kang Wu raised his hand to shield himself, and then a huge explosion occurred. As the Trevor stopped, Rayday landed on a nearby house. He looked down and muttered, "Is it over?" I was expecting something from him. But immediately, a dark area suddenly appeared behind him. Rayday pivoted in shock. From the dark area, Quan Kang Wu emerged, fist ready. "You're the one being hunted." Instantly, Rayday raised both hands. "I give up, I surrender." Quan Kang Wu halted and snapped angrily. "What? What kind of fighting is that?" Rayday shrugged and replied, "There was no other way. A captured archer stands no chance of winning." Quan Kang Wu could not help but wonder. This was just a normal contest. How could you give up so easily? Rayday said, "Normal, huh? You must be joking. It's that easy to die. From the very beginning, I never intended to be your opponent. But Screwdriver asked me for something." In the sky, the drone continued to monitor the two individuals. Quan Kang Wu curiously asked, "Does Screwdriver want you to do something?" Rayday nodded in response. He doesn't want anyone to be seriously injured in this test. Taking it, he handed Quan Kang Wu an object. Quan Kang Wu took it and asked, confused, "What is this?" Rayday explained it's an urge suppression patch. All the villains in the Gatem district in the evil area have this. Just stick it under your ear and it will work immediately. It matches the skin tone, so it's hard to detect. Quan Kang Wu was very surprised. I've seen it used to inject villains, he thought, but this is the first time I've seen it in patch form. Who could make something like this? Lost in thought, Rayday suddenly spoke up. "Your final opponent will probably be Blackhand. He is quite impulsive, but has his own charm, so go him too hard." Quan Kang Wu frowned, recalling what Blackhand had done. Feeling doubtful. "He's charming. What kind of charm is that?" Moros also refrained from commenting. On the other side, Blackhand was tensely biting his lip. Crush asked, "Who do you think will win?" "Where the hell is Driver?" Crush asserted that shooting addict will be at a disadvantage. He's not cut out for solo fighting. One-on-one isn't just about one-on-one. If he has the strength to take down Juak with a single hit then. Before he could finish, Blackhand shouted, "You idiot, he just got lucky." Blade asked again, "Do you really think he got lucky this time?" Blackhand gritted his teeth and didn't reply. Crush suddenly suggested, "After all, a one-on-one fight is pretty tough, right? How about a 3-on-1 then?" Blade nodded in agreement. "Not bad." Blackhand exploded. "Are you crazy? Do you want to gang up on him?" Just then, another voice chimed in. "What's wrong with that?" Juak, who didn't know when he woke up, stood up and said, "Even lions need to bring their whole pride to hunt a buffalo." Blackhand smirked. He shouted, "Oh my god, I can't believe it. Don't put me and her on the same level. I'm not a lion, I'm a Siberian tiger that hunts alone. He was doused with cold water. You yourself were taken down in one hit," Juak said, laughing loudly. Blackhand, furious, intended to charge up. Juak spat out the broken tooth, saying, "I'm not joking. This inspection is just for show. Both died, and you are merely pawns for him to shine. This statement shook Blackhand. Nonsense. What are you talking about? Juak recounted. I happened to overhear Driver talking in Paradise Tavern. Do you even know what he said? He said he would hand over the boss's location to him. This statement left the other three astonished. Blackhand still couldn't believe it and insisted, nonsense. Why do you speak of this as if it were as light as a feather? Juak asserted Yucha was there too. If you don't believe it, you can go ask him. Blackhand thought of Driver, suddenly at a loss for words. It can't be. Driver is unbeatable, and yet this is hard to accept. Juak recalled the moment she was taken down in one move, feeling furious, nearly shouting, he's just a villain with no background or identity. Do you really want to hand over the supreme title of the evil area to him so easily? Aren't you annoyed that that bastard received so much favor from Driver? The Driver we know is not someone like that. Now make a decision. If you want to join us to turn the tide. Blade caught the emphasis in her words and asked, us? What do you mean by that? Juak let out a cold laugh. 4 individuals appeared behind her. She said, I brought along like-minded teammates. The more the merrier. Meanwhile, the flight to America was still underway. On the plane, passengers were being served dinner. A meal was placed on Kwan Yuri's table. The flight attendant politely wished, enjoy your meal. Kwan Yuri replied, thank you. She looked at the watch, calculating that there was still a long time before they arrived. She picked up the fork, sighed, and looked out the airplane window. Her heart was filled with a jumble of worries. Was Kwan Kangwoo eating well? At that moment, Kwan Yuri was indeed having a sandwich for dinner. This was given to her by Rede earlier. Eat it. This is really good for your health, Rede said. Kwan Yuri took a bite with suspicion. Good for health, huh? What the hell did he give me? Moros asked, do you think he has some ulterior motive? Kwan Kangwoo replied, Jeff always advised me to be wary of those who seem altruistic. Suddenly, footsteps approached. When he looked ahead, it was Blackhand. Just as expected, the next opponent was in front of him. Blackhand scowled and questioned, what did you do to Driver? Kwan Kangwoo was puzzled. What the hell are you talking about? Blackhand almost shouted, I'm asking what the hell you did to Driver. At the same moment from behind, a guy wielding a large hammer appeared ready to strike down. But fortunately, Kwan Kangwoo noticed in time and quickly jumped to the side to dodge the blow. However, before he could regain his balance, Double swung a knife at him. Kwan Kangwoo's vision darkened. He immediately stretched out his hand and struck hard at Blade's chest. Counterattacking with help? Nice one. Kwan Kangwoo mocked. Blade then regained his balance and landed on the ground. Kwan Kangwoo wore a faint, sarcastic smile. Can't BB say you have to bring your buddies along? Are you trying to compensate for your lack of skills with numbers? Kwan Kangwoo glanced over. This time, Juak's wooden wine barrel was hurtling towards him. He quickly tilted his body to avoid it. Just as he landed, another issue arose. Juak appeared right in front of him, ready to throw a punch, confidently saying, 3 isn't enough, is it? Her face was full of confidence. A strike was launched, aimed directly at Kwan Kangwoo's chest. Elsewhere, Crow and Driver were waiting. Driver complained, it's taking so long. I wonder how he's doing? Crow asked, who? That black duck? Driver retorted, what black duck? He's a noisy duck. Come to think of it, he doesn't even have a name. Then he began to think of a few names. Crow chuckled. You're giving that duck too much attention. I'm starting to get jealous. Suddenly, she used her finger to lift Driver's chin suggestively, saying, save that attention for me. I'll return it 1,000,000 times over or even more. Driver was oblivious, still immersed in the task of naming. What name would suit him? Just at that moment, Rede appeared. Oh, you two are here. Seeing them a bit too close, he suspiciously asked, are you two lovebirds or something? Why do you always seem to be so close together? Driver praised, have you finished your work? You did great today. Crow frowned, don't interrupt and act so annoyed. She turned away in displeasure and asked, what about the black duck? Rede looked puzzled. Who is that? Driver used his glasses to examine the situation and exclaimed, holy shit. The other two stared at him. What's up with that? Driver continued to silently observe the situation. The image of the large building in front of him was magnified. The phone displayed a conversation with Dirt Dog. Where is everyone? I don't see anyone. The owner of the phone replied, what do you mean you don't see anyone? Just then, a loud explosion erupted behind the girl. A beam of light shot up accompanied by some dust. She turned to look. There was a flash of light from the nearby building. Kwan Kangwoo was thrown outside by the attack, crashing into the wall of the building across. He gritted his teeth and let out a cold grunt. Crush wielded his hammer, boasting, take this. But he couldn't enjoy it for long. Kwan Kangwoo had regained his composure and quickly rushed toward him. One hand held the hammer's handle, while the other threw a powerful punch at Crush's face. Seeing his friend being attacked, Black Hand also rushed in angrily. He gathered energy in his hand and shouted, "Die!" But Quan Kang Wu moved faster. In an instant, he had spun behind Black Hand, grabbing his hair with one hand and delivering a strong knee strike to him from behind. Not stopping there, Quan Kang Wu's other hand clenched into a fist, delivering a powerful blow directly to Black Hand's face, forcing his head down into the ground. Crush rushed in angrily, "You bastard," but then he was kicked away by Quan Kang Wu's sweeping leg once again. Behind Quan Kang Wu, another person approached. Juak threw a barrel of alcohol at him. However, he reacted quickly and immediately ducked to avoid it. Then he jumped up with his muscular leg, grabbing the back of her head. Juak gritted her teeth, wanting to resist, but Quan Kang Wu's knee had already built up energy. He forcefully thrust his knee towards her face. All three were soon defeated. Lying sprawled on the ground, only Quan Kang Wu stood coldly and firmly in the center. Black Hand struggled to open his eyes, feeling deep fear for that arrogant man. He was too strong. Black Hand was unwilling to accept it, clutching his face and gritting his teeth. How could I be dominated by this insignificant nobody? Just thinking about being knocked out in an instant, Crush, lying on the ground, asked, "Are you still alive?" Black Hand was still silently cursing. "Dan, where did this monster come from?" Quan Kang Wu glanced over. At that moment, two other people appeared. Pointer smirked and said, "You're not as simple as you seem." The person next to him was Hammerboy, who said, "The stronger the prey, the more it excites the hunter." Moro said, "They just keep coming." Quan Kang Wu casually replied, "Flies will always just be flies." Pointer felt insulted and shouted, "What the fuck? Flies? Ha! Son of a bitch!" Quan Kang Wu glared at him. The legs of Pointer trembled in fear. Seeing the killing intent radiating from him, he paled slightly. From behind, a foolish man ran over shouting, "He's mine." The security enforcer, Iron Mask, jumped up as he got closer, his hands clasped together in front of his chest, energy radiating towards Quan Kang Wu. "I will bring justice for the benefit and peace of the mighty John." He charged forward, but it seemed he miscalculated, his target moving straight back. Quan Kang Wu had already moved out of position. He stood in shock, not understanding what was happening. At that moment, Hammer Boy lunged, hammer in one hand and nail in the other. He hammered down hard on the nail, shouting, "Let's start the hunt." With a powerful strike, the large nail shot towards Quan Kang Wu. However, he easily dodged to the side. As soon as he regained his balance, he charged forward firmly. But right after that, Pointer moved in a zigzag pattern and blocked Hammer Boy's path. "Get out of the way, you idiot!" Pointer shouted angrily. "Don't give me orders, you useless piece of trash!" Quan Kang Wu retorted, "Let me make you experience what it feels like to be roasted." He spun the spear in his hand, generating a fire spear. Quan Kang Wu remained undeterred, gathering a stream of dark energy in his hand, the aura of overwhelming power putting pressure on Pointer's fire spear, causing him to flinch in shock. Quan Kang Wu shot dark flames towards Pointer. He struggled to resist, even Hammer Boy was astonished. "What is that fire?" Crush exclaimed, jumping up in surprise. "Is that guy a mage?" Black Hand beside him was also taken aback, along with Juak shouting, "Don't just stand there. Time your attack." Juak threw herself towards Quan Kang Wu and shouted, "Die!" She poured all her strength into the wooden barrel in her hands, throwing it forcefully towards him. It seemed Quan Kang Wu had no intention of dodging. Dark flames gathered in his hand, and he directly unleashed his attack in the blink of an eye, splitting Juak's wooden barrel in half. Crush wielded a large hammer and jumped to attack Quan Kang Wu, executing a new technique, Silent Heavy Strike. It looked as if he was holding something thin and metallic, cutting through Crush's hammer, causing him to flinch and quickly release his grip. Seizing the opportunity, Quan Kang Wu turned and kicked him squarely in the abdomen. Black Hand sat flat on the ground, watching the entire fight in horror. "Holy shit, who the hell is this guy? I can't even see him." Black Hand thought to himself, "Could it be that we are the ones being hunted?" While in combat, Quan Kang Wu was suddenly ensnared by countless threads. Gotcha. He turned to see who was binding him. It was Binder. The man was manipulating numerous purple threads. As he bound Quan Kang Wu, he couldn't help but feel pleased. "I knew you would eventually fall into my trap," Binder said. "Try to struggle against something like this." Binder declared, "It's useless. You'll never escape. Not only is your body bound, but even your desires and inner connections cannot break free. Since both possessed shadow attributes, any resistance was futile." Quan Kang Wu gritted his teeth, trying hard but failing. He cursed for being unable to summon any strength. "Poison attribute. My body so strange," Moros called out anxiously. "Cassian." Binder was still rambling, constrained by an inescapable despair and experiencing the sensation of escaping hell right now. Kill him! Juak and Pointer immediately jumped up. Pointer thrust his spear straight at Quan Kang Wu, saying, "I'll turn you into a skewered meat." But as the sword approached, his hand went up to hold it back. Even though he couldn't escape the tangled poison, he still tried to use his strength to keep the spear from reaching him. The danger was not over yet, and Irama's laughter rang out again. "For the peace of Vilzum, I will definitely defeat this trash and deliver justice." He charged in at some point, delivering a powerful punch to Quan Kang Wu's back. Juak saw this and rejoiced, laughing loudly. "Well done." At the same time, she also raised her fist and struck him hard in the stomach. Quan Kang Wu couldn't escape and had to endure the blows. Not only that, but others also rushed in to strike him continuously, from Crush to Pointer's group, Hammerboy, and Juak. They all took turns trampling over Kang Wu's body, crushing him, mutilating him. Quan Kang Wu's vision was gradually fading. Next, Blackhand rushed forward, stomping down hard on him with hatred. "Die, you inferior being." They laughed and joked, enjoying themselves. The space darkened, and a strange voice echoed. It was the voice of Quan Kang Wu's original self. "Is this all you've got? Pathetic. You took my body, and this is all you can do. Then just die." Quan Kang Wu suddenly gritted his teeth. Memories flashed in his mind of being bullied in the past and of being betrayed by his teammates when he was Cassian. A bright light flickered, stunning the entire Juak group. Just as Quan Kang Wu lost consciousness, he suddenly opened his eyes wide. He seemed even more terrifying than before. In the distance, another team was rushing towards them. Day, Driver, and Crow were approaching the battlefield. Crow asked her two friends, seeming a bit uneasy, "Are you worrying too much?" "Crow," she added. "What could possibly happen?" Driver simply replied, "It would be great if nothing happened." Driver sped ahead, "But if there are many injuries, that would be a problem." Just as Driver finished speaking, something indeed happened right before their eyes. This was clearly reflected in the astonishment of Crow and Redai. The Driver softly expressed, "It seems that." The three looked towards the chaos right in front of them. All three concluded that something had indeed changed. The group of Pointers suddenly realized things were not going as expected. Juak, surprised, "What is this?" The other two teammates, Blackhand and Crush, were also bewildered by Cassian's reversal. It really is like that. Cassian had returned very cool and handsome. The villain Binder was extremely anxious. The connection has been severed. Its teammate, Juak, although confused, bravely charged at Cassian while encouraging his teammates, "Don't waver. We just need to crush him again." But it wasn't easy. Cassian's gaze turned cold and sharp. He teleported. Each step back was a step towards victory. With swift and decisive movements, Cassian lunged to attack relentlessly at Binder's group. The two sides fought chaotically. The space was filled with disorder. Before the fierce attacks from Cassian, the opponents buckled under pressure. One after another, they seemed confused and constantly dodged Cassian's strikes. All four opponents had fallen before his strength. Cassian stood solemnly looking at the defeated opponents he had just shattered. Juak was now crawling on the ground in pain. She cursed furiously. Cassian's quiet voice rang out, "I am here for revenge." Cassian yelled loudly at the others, "We cannot die here." Just in time, several drivers approached. Crow looked towards Cassian and asked curiously, "Is that a black duck over there?" Driver adjusted his glasses and reported, "The mana has exceeded 2,000 points." Crow and Redai were surprised. 2,000? No way. Redai clenched his teeth out of jealousy, also feeling a bit worried. The mana has surpassed 2,000. It's already at catastrophe level. Crow anxiously asked Driver, "What should we do? If we just leave him like this, it will be very dangerous." Driver was deep in thought and did not answer right away. Driver fell into contemplation about Cassian. Moros began to awaken Cassian. "Cassian, calm down. Is your authority only limited to this?" Moros continued to provoke him. "Cassian, where is the warrior spirit you always take pride in? Come back to your senses, Cassian." After a while of awakening, Cassian finally spoke. "I am awake." He stared confidently at Moros. He smirked and said to Moros, "Do you think I wouldn't be able to come back after losing myself?" He asserted to Moros, "Don't underestimate my mental strength." Moros was momentarily speechless, unsure of what to say. Moros had seen the awakening sticker on the back of Cassian's neck. Moros replied, "Of course, thanks to that thing that Screwdriver gave you." On the driver's side, he was quite happy to see Cassian waking up. He's managed to break. Crow expressed his regret. "What a pity. It took so long to witness his full strength." The driver's monitor displayed the number 1,000. The driver kept his eyes fixed on Cassian, silently noting, "So compared to before, his mana points have dropped to less than half." The driver pondered. Did he simply lose control? Turning to Cassian, Moros kindly asked about his condition. Are you okay? Cassian replied softly. I'm feeling a bit dizzy. However, Cassian still cast a rather unfriendly glance at Pointer, Juak, and their teammates. He challenged them, asking, Do you still want to continue? Juak was so angry that she swore. Then a voice from someone declared surrender. Black Hand conceded to Cassian. We're defeated. Juak shouted angrily. What? Who gave you the right? She continued to scold her teammates. If you want to be a turtle, then surrender by yourself. Juak was about to say more. I want up before she could finish. Black Hand grabbed her by the neck. Black Hand slapped her hard. Shut off. Black Hand made it clear to Juak. I already feel humiliated being knocked down by him, and now you won't even admit defeat. Juak fell silent immediately. Black Hand caught Juak. Are you planning to throw away the last bit of your pride for the dogs to gnaw on? Juak seemed to still not understand the situation. She hissed, You bastard. Black Hand saw that she was still not awake, so he continued to insult her. If you want to continue fighting like this, why don't you go and make your case to the boss? Juak was horrified when she saw Screwdriver. The three of Driver, Ray and Crow appeared calmly. Cassian slowly approached Driver. Driver also cheerfully announced, You won. Congratulations on passing the test. Cassian looked at Driver with a cold glare and asked him, Are you satisfied now? Driver responded calmly, Of course. Now you are a part of the Vilzum family. Cassian smiled slightly. Then I might as well take a nap since I'm right in front of my family. Cassian then collapsed into Driver's arms. So I'm going to take a little sleep now. And just like that, Cassian passed out in Driver's arms. On a fresh, clear morning at Philadelphia International Airport, the American flag is neatly displayed here. Yuri reads a message that says, When you arrive, remember to text me. As Yuri pulls her suitcase, she silently scolds her younger brother. This guy Kang Woo must be asleep by now. While pulling her suitcase toward the arrivals hall, Manager Scene is already waiting to greet Yuri. Yuri is slightly surprised to see him. Scene is cheerful with a welcome sign. Welcome, Quan Yuri. Yuri, knowing what to say, expresses her gratitude. Thank you for picking me up, Mr. Manager. Manager Scene humbly replies, Just call me Scene, okay? Would you like to go to the accommodation first? In the car that picks up Yuri, she feels very appreciative. You are so thoughtful. You're welcome, Ms. Yuri. Yuri then inquires about Manager Scene. What kind of person is the hotel manager? Scene happily responds, He's quite charming. He really loves his job. Scene provides more information to Yuri. Currently, he is on a business trip. You will meet him in about 10 days. Oh, really? Yuri replies. Scene drives while cheerfully saying, Feel free to ask me any questions. Yuri gently replies, Thank you for your kindness. She feels a strong fondness for Manager Scene and silently tells herself, From now on, I will do my best. The scene shifts to HC Orphanage where a young orphan boy expresses his dream. I will become a psyker like Jeff. It seems this is a memory from the past. Jeff looks young and thoughtful. Jeff seriously advised Cassian. Cassian, why do you want to be a psyker when I always fight for justice? Jeff smiled. Not every psyker stands on the side of justice. Cassian was puzzled at that moment. Why is that? Aren't psykers supposed to take down all the evil villains? After some explanation, Cassian understood. Is that so? Cassian continued to ask Jeff. So who is on the side of justice then? Is it the villains? This question made Jeff struggle. He pondered over Cassian's question. After a while, he answered, Cassian, it's someone who fights for fairness. Jeff gently patted Cassian's head and said to him, Don't easily believe in the things you consider obvious. What you believe is very fair might actually be quite different from what true fairness is. Jeff believed in Cassian. Be someone who truly makes the right things happen. Jeff smiled warmly and sincerely taught Cassian like that.